Loot, the successor to Boss, created by Wrinkly Ninja and maintained by he and the community at large, is a tool that is used to help establish a proper load order when modding. It is designed to assist mod users in avoiding detrimental conflicts by automatically calculating a load order that satisfies all plugin dependencies while maximizing each plugin's impact on the user's game. Loot also provides some load order error checking, including checks for requirements, incompatibilities, and cyclic dependencies. In addition, it provides a large number of plugin-specific usage notes, bug warnings, and bash tag suggestions for those that utilize Rybash. While Loot is able to calculate correct load order positions for the vast majority of plugins using only their content, it simply cannot do this for every single plugin. As such, Loot provides a mechanism for user-supplied metadata so that it may sort them correctly. An online master list is provided to supply metadata for many plugins that need it, while users can make their own metadata additions, which are saved in their personal user list. Loot is intended to make using mods easier, and it does so masterfully. However, mod users should still possess a working knowledge of mod load ordering. When using applications that generate their own plugins, such as merge plugins, Loot will not know how to sort them properly due to their customization. Bashed patch and Xedit merge patches will be sorted properly as long as they are named accordingly. I don't feel that I need to state how important Loot, its creators, and those maintaining it have become to the modding community. I will simply say this: thank you. If you want to contribute to Loot, please get over to their official page and do so. The only steps that need to be taken before installing Loot, or rather, before launching it, is to assure that you have already established the game in question's file paths and registries so that Loot can detect it. Simply run the game a single time to do so. Not initially launching the game is the #1 reason for Loot to not detect it. The rest of this section is dedicated to general questions. If you have none, or feel comfortable continuing on without hearing about them, skip to the downloading and installation section of this guide. Anyone who has had questions, I suggest watching on, as this section is quite short. The games that Loot is currently compatible with are The Elder Scrolls IV: Oblivion. However, Boss should be used instead as it's more accurate for this game. The Elder Scrolls V: Skyrim, The Elder Scrolls V: Skyrim Special Edition, Fallout 3, Fallout New Vegas, and Fallout 4. No, you can use the same executable for all of the games that you have installed that use Loot. However, I personally install a separate copy of Loot for every game that I use it with. I simply feel more comfortable having a dedicated version of each piece of software that I use for any given game. I've noticed that when using other applications, such as Mod Organizer, having multiple copies makes file path setup, auto detection, and registries a bit easier. Every time a new mod is created, the Loot master list will need to be updated to detect it properly. When updates to the list are added, you may see that your load order is organized slightly different than it used to be. While this should not create any issues with your game, you do need to keep in mind, as mentioned earlier, that your load order may need to be manually adjusted after running Loot for a few specific instances. This is not an error. After running Loot, if you have received this message and Loot has not made any changes to your load order, it does not mean that something is wrong. In fact, this simply means that your load order is perfectly in line with the Loot master list and that no sorting on behalf of Loot is needed. Again, Loot is not infallible. You may still want to arrange some plugins on your own due to personal preference or necessity. In summary, know your mods, and for 99% of us, this means everything is good to go. Be sure that your mod manager is actually in a full release state. Mod Organizer, the original, Nexus Mod Manager, and Rybash all provide proper functionality regarding Loot, but users of newer and untested versions may need to wait until the manager's authors fix some issues. Loot isn't omniscient. It may provide warnings for outdated plugins through the master list, but this depends on user feedback. Loot has no way of being able to tell by itself if a plugin is outdated or not. If you would like help and are contacting the Loot team, the Step team, Gamer Poets, or anyone else, simply stating that your load order does not look correct is not going to help anyone. While your instincts may be correct, without telling us what plugins you feel should load after others and the reasons as to why, there isn't even a place for a conversation to begin. Loot is maintained and progressed by the community. There is information on how to directly help the team on the official Loot page. Navigate to loot.github.io. Select Download Loot. Scroll down and select lootinstaller.exe. For easy access, save the executable to your desktop. You can delete it after loot has been installed if you choose. Double-click the Loot Installer executable. If a security warning window opens, select Run. If a user account control window opens, select Yes. At the Setup Language window, select your language from the drop-down menu. Select OK. At the Destination window, select Browse. Loot can literally be installed anywhere. However, as I mentioned earlier, I prefer to install Loot and other applications directly to the game's folder that they are being used for. While not necessary, in my experience, this helps to prevent potential user errors. To install Loot how I would, navigate to Steam, Steam Apps, Common, and then select the folder of the game that you are installing Loot to be used with. Select OK. Select Next. At the Additional Tasks window, choose whether or not you would like Loot to create a desktop shortcut. In most cases, I suggest you do. Select Next. After Loot is installed, select Finish and allow it to launch. To launch Loot so that it detects your load order, you simply have to run it from whatever third-party application option is provided to you. If Loot is not automatically detected, and it should be, navigate to Steam, Steam Apps, Common, the Game folder. Launch Loot via its executable file. Doing this should allow your mod manager to auto-detect it. Restart your manager and try again. Various mod manager tutorials can be found in the description for those who need additional help with third-party applications. The first time that you launch Loot, you may see a message next to both Master List Revision and Master List Update. To fix this, select the Update Master List download icon at the top right of the interface. From here on, Loot should auto-check for updates before sorting your plugins. Every time you launch Loot, you will be supplied with important information within the General Information card. Master List Date assures that the most recent changes are applied to your load order. Any warnings about your load order, including one that everyone will receive if you have not yet sorted your plugins within the current session, the amount of errors, messages, and plugins, active, dirty, and in total. By scrolling through the cards, Loot's right pane, you will come across messages highlighted in different colors informing you of various things. Dirty plugins that need to be cleaned will require Xedit. Plugins that have dirty edits but need to not be cleaned will have messages informing you of this as well. After taking all of this information into consideration, select the Sort Plugins 3 lines icon at the top of Loot. When sorting has finished, select Apply, which will appear where the Sort Plugins icon was, and your load order will be sorted. It is that simple. Close Loot by selecting the X at the top right of the interface, and the changes will be applied to your mod manager. At this point, for the general user, the tutorial is basically concluded. However, in the following sections, I am going to cover each and every piece of Loot. For those of you adding more than just a couple of modifications to your game, and for those creating your own mods, I suggest you view onward. Loot provides quite a bit of extra functionality, and the information that follows will only help you on your modding journey. Lists all of your load order plugins, ESMs and ESPs, in the order that they are currently sorted in. Double-clicking a plugin will open its card in the right pane. Allow you to toggle card information off and on to quickly find what you are searching for. Show only conflicting plugins for. Allows you to hide all of the cards for plugins that are not in conflict with the selected plugin. Show only plugins with cards that contain. Allows you to filter plugins by pieces of their titles by typing them out and then pushing enter. Hide version numbers. Hides the version numbers, displayed in blue, next to the plugins that provide them. Hide CRCs. Hides the CRCs, displayed in orange, next to the plugins that provide them. Hide bash tags. Hides all bash tag suggestions. Hide notes. Hides all plugin messages that contain the note prefix. Hide do not clean messages. Hides all messages that contain the text do not clean. Hide all plugin messages. Hides all plugin messages. Hide inactive plugins. Hides all plugins that are inactive. Hide message list plugins. Hides all plugins that have no visible messages. Selecting the Jump to General Information Home icon instantly scrolls the plugin cards back to the top of the menu. This is where the general information is located for your entire load order as discussed in the basic usage section of this guide. Game Menu. The Game menu is used to select the different games that you have installed to your system in which Loot can be used for. If a game name is grayed out, it is either not installed or not detected. Launching the game from its primary executable located within the game's folder, and then closing the game and relaunching Loot will usually remedy this. Sort plugins, the 3 lines icon, the primary function for most users who install Loot. Selecting this button will first check your master list to assure that it's up to date and then update it if needed. This can be toggled off in the settings menu. Loot will then calculate the load order for your plugins using their internal data and any metadata that may exist. If a cyclic interaction is detected within your load order, 2 mods that depend on each other to function, thus signifying that they both need a higher priority than the other, the sorting will fail. Once Loot has calculated the load order that should exist, it will compare that information to your current load order. If the current load order and Loot's calculated load order are identical, no changes will be made and you will be notified of this. If any changes have been made, then the plugin cards will be rearranged. At this point, the sorting buttons at the top of Loot will be replaced with an Apply and Cancel button, allowing you to apply these changes to your load order or to discard them. During sorting, Loot is also able to sort plugins that have been ghosted by Rybash, as well as able to extract bash tags and version numbers. Any and all errors found will be displayed on the General Information card. Update Master List. Selecting the Update Master List download icon will update Loot's master list to its current version if it isn't already. Search cards. Select the Search Cards magnifying glass icon or press Ctrl+F to reveal the search toolbar. All information, character by character, within the cards is searchable and is performed as you type or until you push the Enter key. You can then use the arrows to search through the cards instead of scrolling and pushing the X when you have completed your search. All cards containing the information in the search will be shown. Filters will affect this process. Main menu. Selecting the vertical ellipsis, 3 dots icon gives you access to the Loot main menu. Redate plugins is an extremely helpful option for the Skyrim Creation Kit users so that they can properly set the load order of a mod that they are creating. This option changes the timestamps of the plugins in the data folder to match their current load order. Using this will re-download any Steam Workshop subscribed mods. Clear all user metadata. Will erase any meta changes that you have personally made to all of the plugins within your load order. Copy load order allows you to paste your load order by copying it to your clipboard. Copy content allows you to paste Loot's card information in YAML formatted text by copying it to your clipboard. Refresh content, a time saver that rescans the installed plugins to regenerate the content that Loot is displaying. This is needed to update Loot's information if making plugin changes in your mod manager while leaving Loot open. Otherwise, you will have to close Loot and reopen it to reset the info. Settings will open Loot's settings window. View documentation will bring you to the official Loot website and documents. Open Debug Location will bring you to the Loot app data location on your system, which is where debug information is stored. About will open a window containing the Loot copyright, license, version, and other information. And Quit will close Loot just as if you selected the X at the top right of the interface. The Settings menu. The Settings menu allows you to change all of the settings that were first established when Loot was installed. Default Game allows you to choose a specific game for Loot to work with. It can also be left at Loot's default setting of Auto Detect. Language allows you to select the language in which Loot's text will be displayed. Enable Debug Logging. When enabled, allows Loot to log debug information to the Loot debuglog.txt file that can be found by opening the debug location within the main menu. Update master list before sorting can be disabled so that Loot never updates its master list unless manually selecting the Update Master List icon. While it may sound funny, this could be of great use under specific circumstances, such as in the case that you are using an outdated list of mods and you want Loot to continue sorting your load order in the manner that it always has. Name is the name that Loot will display in the user interface for the game at hand. The user can actually change this to anything that they wish. However, I suggest leaving it alone. Base Game is the actual game in which Loot is or can be used for. Again, this should be left alone. Loot Folder is the subfolder which Loot uses to store the game's files. Each game must be given a unique subfolder, and so it automatically comes with one. Master File is the main plugin file for each game that is listed. Master List Repository URL links to the actual master list that Loot uses. Install Path points to the game's data folder. Games being modded via Mod Organizer may not have any information here, and that is fine. Install Path Registry Key is used only when first initializing Loot. And the trash can icon will remove the entire row in front of it. Use this only if you don't plan on using the game in question with Loot and desire a more cleanly appearance. When you have made any changes within the menu, select either the Cancel or Apply buttons at the bottom to discard or apply. Each plugin has all of its available information displayed on its own card. Each card provides plugin-specific functionality, including a metadata editor. You can access specific cards by scrolling through them or selecting the plugin from the Plugins tab within the sidebar. Double-clicking a sidebar item will open the plugin's metadata editor. Plugin card header. Each card has its own header. Only information applicable to each plugin will be shown. Active plugin. The checkmark icon signifies that the plugin is activated in your load order. Name. The name displayed is the actual name of the plugin in your load order. Version is the version of the plugin found in the mod's description field and may not be displayed depending on how you installed the mod. CRC is a unique identification code given to every plugin. It can only be seen after conflict filtering and sorting. Master file, the crown icon, indicates that the plugin is a master file. Verified clean, the water drop icon, indicates that the plugin's dirty edits have been cleaned while showing you what application, as well as what version of said application was used in the cleaning. Loads archive, the paperclip icon, indicates that the plugin loads an archive such as a BSA or BA2. User metadata, the person icon, signifies that changes have been made to the plugin by the user. Plugin menu button, the vertical ellipsis, provides access to metadata-related features. The metadata editor is used to further customize the way that Loot sorts your load order. It is accessed via the individual plugin's menu button. From the menu button you can copy metadata, which allows you to paste the metadata by copying it to your clipboard, clear user metadata, which removes any changes to the specific plugin's metadata that you have personally made, and edit metadata, which opens the metadata editor. Loot uses metadata to supply plugins with messages and bash tag suggestions, as well as to help sort plugins that it can't otherwise sort correctly. Plugins with user metadata are indicated with the user metadata icon. Main. Enable edits. On or blue allows user-added metadata to be used. Off or white will ignore all user changes that are present. Priority value sets a plugin's priority value. Higher values load after plugins with lower values. By default, all plugins have a value of 0. Global priority sets priority for the plugin while taking all other plugins in your load order into consideration. Load after, used for resolving specific compatibility issues. Adding plugins to this list will force the plugin at hand to load after those added, giving it a higher priority. Plugins can be added to the list by dragging them in from the Plugins tab within the sidebar. File name is required and is relative to the game's data folder. File name is the path of the file being added displaying the plugin's name. Display name, which is optional, can be used to display a different or abbreviated name for the plugin in error messages. Condition, also optional, is something that only advanced users should look into. It allows for a condition string to determine if the file should be checked for. Left blank, the file will always be checked for. View the official metadata syntax documentation for more information on the official Loot page regarding this. Requirements is a list of files required by the current plugin to function correctly, if at all. The current plugin will load after those listed and will allow Loot to display an error message if any of the plugins in the list are missing from your load order. Requirements has the same 3 fields as load after. Any file, not just plugins, can be listed here. Incompatibilities is a list of plugins that are incompatible with the current plugin. This list allows Loot to display an error message if a plugin listed here is found in your load order. Incompatibilities has the same 3 fields as load after and requirements. Messages adds to the list of messages to be displayed on the given plugin's card. Select the plus sign to make a new entry. Type is used to annotate what type of message you are viewing or leaving. Content is the actual text that will be displayed on the card. Condition is used to determine if the message should be displayed. If left blank, the message will be displayed. Language is the language that Loot runs in that the message will be displayed for. Bash tags. Bash tags are used by Rybash when generating a bashed patch. They give cues to Rybash to do things such as removing entries from level lists or adding items to them. Loot comes with bash tag suggestions incorporated in its metadata, though using this will allow you to add your own suggestions. Add, remove determines whether the tag is to be suggested for addition or removal. Bash tag is the actual bash tag to be applied. Condition decides if the tag is to be suggested or not. In most cases, this should be left blank. Dirty info lists dirty CRCs and related information. CRC is the CRC of the dirty plugin at hand. ITM count is the number of identical to master records that this plugin contains. Deleted references is the number of deleted references that this plugin contains. Deleted nav meshes is the number of deleted nav meshes that this plugin contains, and cleaning utility is the name of the software needed to clean these errors. Clean plugin info allows you to state that the plugin at hand has been cleaned. CRC is the CRC of the clean plugin at hand. Cleaning utility is the name of the software that was used during the cleaning process for this mod. Locations list the URLs that the mod to which this plugin belongs to can be found and downloaded, more for reference than anything. URL is the actual link that the mod can be located at. Name allows you to give the link a personal reference name. Uninstalling Loot is pretty straightforward and quite simple. If you install Loot using the installer, as we have in this video, navigate to the Loot folder. Double-click the uninstall.exe. If you receive a user account control window, select Yes. At the Loot Uninstall window, select Yes. At the next window, you will be asked if you want to delete your personal settings, which will remove all of your metadata edits as well. I suggest that you save them unless you are trying to completely remove all pieces of Loot for reasons known to you. If you install Loot manually, you will need to manually delete the files that you extracted from the Loot folder. Then navigate to the Loot app data location and delete the files here to completely remove Loot from your system. This has been a GamerPoets tutorial, Loot Load Order Optimization Tool. If you felt the video was too fast, check the description for a link to a text version, which will be available on Nexus as time allows. A huge thank you to Wrinkly Ninja for not only creating and maintaining Loot, but for reaching out to the community and allowing us to help him out as well. A big thank you to Scout and Skyrim Beast from the tutorial creation live sessions for helping out with some good suggestions on a few pieces of this tutorial. And a huge thank you to all of you for donating your time to GamerPoets. If you care to support GamerPoets monetarily, there are links to both Patreon and our direct PayPal account in the description. As always, I am Michael of GamerPoets. Thank you for watching.